Welcome to our presentation on Mishnah concept 10, 11, and 12, which will explore the second perek of Masachet Shabbat, Mishnah Aleph, to begin. Mishnah concept number 10 is one we are all familiar with. It's a mitzvah midrabanan to light candles. That means it's a mitzvah that it doesn't say in the Torah, but it's a mitzvah that our rabbis decreed that we should do to honor Shabbat, to light candles on Shabbat, so we can see each other during the meal and not bump into each other, especially in the days before electric lights. Imagine how annoying it would be to try to eat a Friday night meal in the dark, right? So therefore we have a mitzvah to light candles, and even if we have electric lights, we still do that. It definitely brightens up our Shabbat and makes peace in our home. Mishnah concept 11 and 12 are devoted to telling us what types of candles should not be used because they will cause a problem. Mishnah concept 11 tells us that we shouldn't use oils and wicks that are poor quality because that will cause us to have to adjust the fire on Shabbat, and that is forbidden according to the Torah. So, no using poor quality oils or wicks that will need adjusting. Mishnah concept number 12 is about smell. You can't use a foul-smelling oil, meaning it smells bad, like you can't use gasoline or something, since it would make us leave the Shabbat meal and not show honor to the Shabbat. Let's look inside the Mishnah on page 38 and see some examples. We begin the Mishnah, Perek Bet, Mishnah Aleph. Bameh madlikin. With what can we light the Shabbat candles? Uvama ein madlikin. And with what may we not light the Shabbat candles? So the Mishnah will now list a whole bunch of materials that we may not light with because they're of bad quality. And we'll see pictures of them because some of them are not so familiar to us. Ein madlikin, we may not light. Lo belechesh, not with a material called lechesh, which is from a cedar tree. Velo bechosen, not with chosen. Velo bekalach, not with kalach. Velo bepsila te'ida, not with a wick made from the idan plant. Velo bepsila tamidbar, not with a desert wick. Velo biroka shal pnei amayim, and not with the green substance which grows on the water, like algae. Let's see some pictures of what the Mishnah is talking about. Okay, lechesh is a type of a cedar tree, and in between the bark, there is like a material that they could use to make a wick. That doesn't burn well, so we should not use it. Chosen is flax. It's a plant which you can use to make material like silk or linen. I think more like linen, not silk, sorry. Kalach is the stuff that the butterfly leaves over after it spins a cocoon. It's a type of a silk, but it's a very rough silk, and therefore is not usable for a wick. The next material is psilat ha'idan. It's a type of a tree that had on it a fuzzy flower-like growth. That is also not usable for the wicks of Shabbat candles. Here is a picture of the psilat hamidbar, the desert type of wick, which was made of part of the flower of a plant that grew in the desert. And finally, Yiroka shal pnei amayim, we all probably saw it if we went next to the ocean, next to the boat sometimes, like a green seaweed or algae can grow. If you took these plants and you took them out of the water and you dried them up to make them into a wick to burn with, they don't burn very well, so we should not be using them. The Mishnah continues, Velo bezefet. We may not use zefet, which is like a tree sap. Velo b'shava, not with wax from a bee's honeycomb. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily not use a wax candle, but we may not use melted wax as our fuel. However, the candles that we make out of wax do burn well and they are usable. Velo b'shemen kik, not with oil from a type of plant called the kikayon. Velo b'shemen sreifa. What is shemen sreifa? Shemen is oil. Sreifa is burning. You cannot use oil that needs to be burnt. What is it talking about? It's basically talking about a Kohen who gets oil for a gift of truma, which is food given to a Kohen as his gift that he's supposed to receive from all Jews, and that is supposed to be holy. He has to eat it in a state of purity. What happens if it gets impure, like a creepy crawly creature crawls into it or something like that? The halacha is it must be burnt. So you can't be a wise guy and say, well, since I have to burn it, I'll use it for my Shabbat candles. Why? Because, now this is an interesting thing that the commentaries explain, this halacha is only talking about Yom Tov. If it was Yom Tov, and on Yom Tov we also light candles, that is when you may not do this, because you don't burn holy items that have become impure on Yom Tov. Okay? So that's a added qualification to this halacha, is that it's talking about Yom Tov that fell out on Shabbat, and which you're not allowed to, even though you're lighting it before, but it's going to burn on Yom Tov, and we're not allowed to burn kodshim that have become impure on Yom Tov. Okay? Now, the next thing is velo be'alya, not with tallow, which is tail fat of an animal, is very fatty. Velo bechelev, not with forbidden fats. You see in the animal, you have over here on the stomach types of fats inside, which is not kosher to eat and it's not kosher to light with. Nachum Amadi Omer. Nachum Amadi says, Madlikim mechelev mevushal. If you cook the fat, you can use it for lighting. V'chachamim omer me'achad mevushal ve'achad she'ein mevushal ein madlikim bo. The Chachamim, who the law follows, says that whether cooked or not, you cannot light with fat of the animal. Mishnah Bet begins with the same Mishnah concept about oils you may not use for Shabbat candles. Ein madlikim b'shemen sreifa b'yom tov. Oil which must be burnt because it is truma, it's holy for a Kohen, and it got impure, you cannot burn that on Yom Tov. Rabbi Yishmael says, Ein madlikin b'itran. You can't use like a gasoline on Yom Tov, b'pnei kavod Shabbat, because of the honor of Shabbat. Because it's going to smell bad, as we see in the picture, and someone is going to want to stay away from the Shabbat meal because of them. V'chachamim matirin. Our sages allow b'chol hashmanim. Our sages allow you to light with any oil. B'shemen shumshemin, sesame, shemen egozim, of walnuts, shemen sinonot, of radishes, shemen dagim, from fish, b'shemen pakuot, of a gourd. Here's a picture of it. Sesame, walnuts, radishes, of fish, of gourds. B'shemen be'itran, with itran, which is, we said before, smelled bad. Ubeneft, and even like a gasoline. Rabbi Tarfon omer, ein madlikin ela b'shemen zayit bovad. Rabbi Tarfon says, the best thing to do is you may not light with anything except pure olive oil, which burns nicely. So the bottom line from these two Mishnayot is you should light with things that burn nicely so you won't come to touch the candles. Olive oil is definitely one of the best, but you can use something that, as long as it burns properly, and it's better not to be using foul-smelling types of oils or candles.